All right, this is Greg Vincent with AgWeb. I'm talking to Matt Hartwig, who is the Director of Public Affairs for the Renewable Fuels Association. And corn farmers here in the Midwest are anxiously awaiting some news from EPA on what may or may not be happening with the upping of the blend rate for ethanol. Can you give us an update on where that stands right now?
Well, sure, and those corn farmers aren't alone. The industry itself is eagerly awaiting EPA's decision on whether or not that they will allow up to 15% ethanol to be blended into a gallon of gasoline, and whether or not that blend, the E15 blend, would be approved for use in all vehicles regardless of their model year. Previously, EPA has indicated that they are looking to grant what would be no better, I guess, than a partial waiver, limiting the use of E15 to vehicles model year 2001 and newer. Such a bifurcation of the vehicle market and the fuel market would create a host of, in our opinion, unnecessary challenges to retailers trying to offer the fuel, and may very well lead to little, if any, E15 being sold.
Now, you mentioned there's quite a few people, quite a few industries interested in getting this blend rate upped, but a lot of people are kind of opposed to that right now. What's the status there?
Absolutely. I mean, you have an interesting group of oil, big oil companies, environmental activists, the folks in the food manufacturing and corporate livestock game who have long opposed ethanol of any kind, and certainly are opposed to seeing the increase here. If EPA rules in our favor and grants the blend of E15, it wouldn't surprise me at all to see those groups sue and countersue and do everything they can to stop ethanol's progress. They have shown that they have the willingness, that they have the deep pockets. I mean, we're talking about big oil here, has the deep pockets to continue to oppose the industry, and it wouldn't surprise me in the least if they threw every kind of obstacle in our way that they could think of.
Yeah, you mentioned big oil, but there's also the environmental group, and maybe politics does make strange bedfellows. Environmental groups and big oil seem to be on the same page on this one.
Well, politics make strange bedfellows, but so does cash. As you well know, money talks. There's been reports of many of these leading environmental groups taking money from the big oil companies, allowing the big oil companies, in essence, to greenwash themselves by, giving money to the Sierra Club or Environmental Defense or some of these other groups. That sort of leads one to wonder exactly whose water the environmental groups are carrying. I mean, for a long time, as your readers and listeners know, environmentalists have loathed the American farmer. For everything that they do that is right, the environmentalists will come up with some crazy notion of why it's wrong. If a farmer said the sky is blue, environmentalists would say, well, the sky above the farmer is purple, and this is why. What I think is most interesting and should go a long way if some in the environmental community were more rational to silencing those groups is a study that's published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences and will come out very soon. In it, this is from Stanford University, not a bastion of agricultural thought typically. Over the past few decades, the increases that we have seen in agriculture productivity, yield increases, and efficiency improvements have offset a tremendous amount of greenhouse gas emissions that would have otherwise occurred had we not made these advances. What they're telling us is that all of these claims that all of these acres of rainforest and these virgin acres of prairie are being plowed under because of agriculture is simply not true. And had we not invested in the technological developments that are giving us 165 bushel an acre corn, that we would see much more of those acres being destroyed because the population has grown. Fortunately, and especially here in America, the farmer has been able to keep pace without having to add those additional acres. So I think that we're seeing science start to weigh in now more effectively and more firmly on the side of the American farmer, and by extension then the use of biofuels created from the feedstocks the farmer produces.
The prognosis or the outlook may be for the EPA's decision. Are you hearing good things from there?
Well, we think that EPA will ultimately grant some kind of E15 waiver, but are concerned that it will be the partial waiver limiting the use to vehicles 2001 and newer. From just a practical standpoint, that creates a lot of challenges and questions for the retailers of the fuel as to, do I have to put in another pump? Am I going to have to offer an E10 blend and an E15 blend? How is the signage going to work? What happens if somebody who drives a 2000, let's say 2000, Chevy Tahoe, and a 2000 but thinks it's 2001 and misfuels? How does that work? There are a number of just very practical hurdles that such a decision would make. Again, we believe that the data and the science demonstrates that E15 is safe and effective for all vehicles on the road, and EPA has provided nothing in the way of evidence to contradict that statement.
Now, the other big thing in the news, other than college football realignment, is the...
and I have an interest in that, being an Iowa State alum.
Oh, well, good for you. I am too. So
yeah, we got...
The other big news is obviously the Gulf oil spill.
Right.
We actually took a poll on AgWeb. Overwhelmingly, the people responding to that poll said that they think the ethanol industry has been too quiet in light of this spill. Do you feel that way, and what is the industry doing to, and I hesitate to use the word capitalize, but
right,
use that as a way to get some of the advantage of ethanol known?
Well, I think the first thing you have to stop and remember is 11 people lost their life in this explosion, and certainly nobody wants to capitalize on the loss of life. That's a tragedy, and we need to keep that in mind. And it continues to be a tragedy for the thousands of people along the Gulf Coast who are seeing their very livelihoods be destroyed by this spill. The federal government, BP, and others, their first priority and immediate priority, one, has to be stopping this thing. Why BP can't do that is still beyond, I think, a lot of people's understanding. But then cleaning it up and making sure that the damage that it will do is minimized and mitigated to the best of our ability. But there's a long-term component to this. We have to use the attention that the American people are giving to this bill and flip it to a positive. We need to refocus and re-engage in the debate about new energy technologies, developing renewable energies like ethanol that can directly displace oil that we use in America's gas tank. We don't use oil in this country to generate much electricity. That comes from coal and natural gas and other issues. But the predominant use is for motor fuel transportation, as well as creating plastics and things like that. Everything that we use oil for, you can find a bio-based replacement for it. We need to redouble our efforts in research and development to bring those technologies to the marketplace. We need to look to expand the use of renewable fuels. That's why we certainly hope EPA moves in the direction of E15 for all vehicles. But while the immediacy of cleaning up the Gulf has to take precedent, we still have to have a long-term approach to this, and hopefully Congress, the Obama administration, demonstrate that they can walk and chew gum at the same time. Address this bill, clean it up, mitigate the damage done, but also get the policies in place and industries moving forward that ensure that we never have to drill in 5,000 feet of Gulf water again.
All right, that's Matt Hartwig with he's the Director of Public Affairs at the Renewable Fuels Association, and Matt will certainly be in touch as we get closer to this date and deadline for hopefully seeing an EPA approval of the 15% blend.
Sounds good, Greg. Thanks.